In Lies of P, deception and dishonesty define the core of what it is to be human. Interestingly enough, viewers, such as yourself, whether aware or unaware, have created your own batch of lies as you attempt to make sense of the reality-bending lore that is the Krat incident. Let's explore some of the most outlandish of these lies that sadly, even I wish were true. But before we explore the darkest depths of humanity, it's time to give credit where it's due. Kudos to the Austrian Mike for locating the Easter egg in the previous thumbnail. If you look closely, you will see a gold coin fruit in the statue's left hand. If you're new to the channel, I've started playing a game with viewers where I hide an Easter egg in the thumbnail of each of my videos. The first person to state what and where it is in the comments gets a shoutout in the following video. Now, back to the matter at hand. After completing the Overture DLC and watching the post-credits scene, Leia's tragic end was misinterpreted by a shocking amount of players. As she held the maimed Romeo in her arms, Geppetto unexpectedly walked into the garden, dragging along the chest that held the nameless puppet. Although it was never explicitly shown, it is assumed that Leia was killed during this encounter, as her health had been severely affected by the petrification disease and she was unarmed. Evidence left behind does, however, give us a glint of hope that she certainly didn't go out without a fight, as Geppetto's monocle can be found where the battle took place. The fact that players never witnessed Leia's death firsthand led many to create a unique lie of their own, where Leia survived the encounter and was captured and subsequently transformed from the legendary Stalker into the woman who would eventually become Laxata the Complete One. I explored this theory at length in the video on screen and disproved this lie, however, even I wish it were actually true. The sheer irony of Laxata being credited as one of the most difficult bosses in the game ties in nicely with the combat prowess of the legendary Stalker. Not only that, but Laxata was guarding Sophia, which would have been her sister if the theory held any water. Naturally, the epic battle would have come full circle to send an eerily human chill up the spine of Geppetto's puppet once he realized he killed his former master. Rosara, our forever friend, also proved to be the source of many lies. Many either believed her to be Carlo's sister, and even Dorothy, despite the contradictions her questline presented, as discussed in this video, that shed light on the truth about the little puppet. However, I would have gladly accepted a retcon that tied Rosara and the Dorothy plotline to the Krat incident. This would provide explanations for Dorothy's presence in Krat, and even create a backstory for how Carlo and Dorothy's paths crossed much earlier than the setting provided in-game. Naturally, the purposeful ambiguity from the developers would allow players to more easily process Carlo's transition from the Pinocchio-inspired protagonist to the supporting role of the Tin Man in Dorothy's journey. Camille was a woman of many titles. Not only was she a genius workshop technician responsible for the creation of the Saintess of Mercy statue, but she was also a mother to Carlo, a wife to Geppetto, and a listener candidate to the alchemists. However, those were only titles during her life as a human. She would soon become the sacred maid puppet whose discovery would allow the alchemist to gain a deeper understanding of the true nature of Ergo and its ability to preserve memories and souls. There exists a theory that states Camille was pregnant when she was accidentally killed by the alchemist, as evidenced by the round belly in the drawing. This child was the source of her listener abilities and was contained for observation and experimentation. This would explain the childlike listener we find in the Zealoter Underground facility. Despite how intriguing this could have been, it's simply not true. The only child referenced by both Geppetto and Camille in her final words as a maid puppet was Carlo. There was never a mention of multiple children, twins, siblings, etc., so the theory doesn't hold any water. But this begs the question, who is the listener we find in the facility? Arlecchino certainly carved out an unforgettable role in the Overture DLC. Only after journeying to the past did Carlo learn the true significance of his murderous rampage. There's an interesting theory that states Arlecchino was none other than Jack the Ripper himself, and even though that seems like an interesting possibility, it just doesn't seem to fit the original serial killer's MO. For one, Arlecchino did not solely target one type of person. In fact, he despised all of humanity equally. Additionally, he lacked the surgical precision that made Jack the Ripper infamous. The bloody artist was more akin to a butcher than a medically trained stalker of the night. An interesting theory, however full of holes it may be. The Spectre who aids Carlo in his greatest times of need is yet another source of untruths. my favorites of which revolve around the enigmatic individual's identity. Although I explored this some time ago, I do enjoy the new rumors stirring around the dark corners of Krat, many of which state that Romeo is the Spectre answering his best friend's call from another reality. There are even whispers that the Spectre is actually Sophia, rushing headfirst into battle. But we know that these are simply wishes that players will never have answered. Romeo has perished, and Sophia is no fighter. One must remember that Lies of P is not the heavily curated family-friendly version of the tales from which it draws inspiration, but rather the grim tales that show the darkness that dwells within us all. There are no happy endings in Krat, just a glimmer of hope from a boy that learned what it truly means to be human. And that's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe. It lets me know you want more content just like this. Click on these videos on screen to continue your journey through Krat, and I'll be there to guide you when you arrive. Become a true theory hunter for exclusive perks like emojis, early access to videos, and more. Or check out my Ko-fi page if you want to support me in a more personal way. Until next time, it's the Inhuman One signing out. Join the Inhuman community today.